Hi, I'm Gardener Scott, and today I'll be showing you how to make sauerkraut. Homemade sauerkraut tastes much better than anything you've ever had in a can or a jar, and it's pretty easy to do in your own kitchen. The ingredients are quite simple. We're talking cabbage and salt, and a little bit of thyme. The whole process takes between 3 to 6 weeks, but when you're done, you'll be greatly rewarded. The first thing you want to do is shred your cabbage. Go ahead and cut it in half, and then you're going to want to cut out the heel as much as you can. That's the really hard part in the center. You really don't want to use this in your sauerkraut. Quarter your head of cabbage, and then slice it about a 1/4 inch thick all the way through. You want to do the entire head this way. Sauerkraut is basically pickled cabbage. The way you pickle the cabbage is by using the salt. You want to make sure you use canning and pickling salt. Table salt has iodine, which may discolor your sauerkraut. And if you use rock salt or sea salt, it may not dissolve completely. Canning and pickling salt is specifically designed for things like making sauerkraut. The recipe is quite simple. We'll be using 5 pounds of shredded cabbage with 3 tablespoons of pickling salt. Let's begin. We'll be weighing our shredded cabbage now. I have 2 heads, and these 2 heads should give me pretty close to the 5 pounds I'm looking for. I want to take the shredded cabbage, put them into a single large container so that I can get the weight and the salt just right. We're approaching 2 pounds, and so we'll stop right about here. That's 2 pounds of shredded cabbage. I'll start by sprinkling a little bit of salt that I've already measured out on top of the cabbage. You want to use a container for your sauerkraut that's big enough for the entire 5 pounds of shredded cabbage. That usually means that it's about a 1-gallon jar. I'm using a 2-gallon jar now. You could use a stone crock. You can use a food-grade plastic container. Regardless of what you use, you want to make sure it's perfectly clean inside and out. As you weigh the cabbage and add the salt, it's ready to go into the container. It's easy to use your hands. If you don't like the feel of cold, wet cabbage, you could always use food-grade gloves. And we'll complete this process of weighing the cabbage, adding the salt, and putting it in the jar until all 5 pounds are in the jar. I have all 5 pounds of shredded cabbage in my 2-gallon jar now. You notice it fills it up pretty close to the top, and I said that you could get 5 pounds of cabbage in a 1-gallon jar. Well, this is just the beginning. I've reserved about a tablespoon of the salt, and I'll sprinkle it on the very top. You want to make sure that the salt is incorporated well with the cabbage. With your hands clean, or wearing food-grade gloves, mix up the cabbage so that that salt is distributed as evenly as possible. I'll sprinkle a little bit more. What the salt will do is cause the liquid in the cabbage to come out. That liquid is loaded with carbohydrates. Those carbohydrates is what feed the bacteria. And the bacteria will create lactic acid. The lactic acid is what ends up pickling the cabbage. When you have the salt incorporated with the shredded cabbage, you want to begin crushing it, punching it down. This will take a number of minutes, but as you push it down, the salt will gradually release the liquids, and you'll be able to compact the shredded cabbage into about half this space. After just a few minutes, the salt reacting with the cabbage causes the water to start being released. Continue to pack down. You'll see the volume decreasing, and gradually liquid will start forming on the top. This will take a few minutes. If you don't like using your hand, you can use the back of a spoon, or you can use a can inside a plastic bag. The idea is just to keep compacting until you have a nice layer of water on the surface. As you continue compressing the shredded cabbage and salt mixture, you'll see the liquid starting to rise up the top. That shows you're getting close. After about 10 minutes of compressing the cabbage, the liquid level will reach pretty close to the top. You want it to be completely submerged. The bacteria that converts the cabbage to sauerkraut is an anaerobic bacteria. It doesn't like oxygen. That's why you're looking for the liquid to submerge the cabbage totally, because you want it to be absent of all oxygen. You also need to help this along a little bit. There are a couple methods you can use. One is the plate method. So I'll start actually by putting a plate in. If you have a plate that can cover the entire ceramic crock or whatever container you're using, all you need is the plate, and then weight it down with some glass jars, clean glass jars that are filled with water. I'll be using an alternate method to help weigh down the cabbage within the pickling solution. I have a food-safe gallon-size bag filled with brine. Why brine? Brine is a salty solution, and remember, salt is the primary pickling agent. So what I've done is I've mixed 1.5 tablespoons of salt, specifically pickling salt, with a quart of water. I have 2 quarts of water in this bag. What I'll do now is set it on top of the pickled cabbage and the plate, and make sure that it covers the entire surface area. What this will do is weigh down the shredded cabbage. As more moisture comes out, and as that lactic acid is created, you'll have an increase in liquid and a decrease in the actual size of the shredded cabbage. For now, we just wait. Let's put this container in a nice, safe location where it won't be disturbed for a few days. The temperature should ideally be between 60 degrees and 75 degrees. Between 70 and 75 degrees, your sauerkraut will only take about 3 weeks to make. Between 60 and 65 degrees, it may take up to 6 weeks. So, choose your location, set the crock aside, and I'll be back in a couple days. I found a nice corner for this sauerkraut crock, and it's been sitting here for about a week. I got a very inexpensive thermometer to stick on the outside just to monitor the temperature. My temperature here is staying at a pretty constant 65 degrees, so I should expect my sauerkraut to be ready between 4 and 6 weeks. You'll want to inspect your sauerkraut on a regular basis, starting after a few days, definitely at about the 1 week point. And you may notice that there will be some scum or foam developing on the surface of either the weighted bag or the sauerkraut itself. That's no problem. You just need to clean it off. To clean off the scum, I just removed the bag, wiped it down, and rinsed it off. Before I put it back, I have an opportunity to inspect the surface of the sauerkraut, spoon off any other scum, and just make sure everything's going okay. The odor should be clean. If it smells rancid, is strong, or pungent, you'll need to remove the sauerkraut and start over again. The clean bag is back in place, completely covering the surface of the sauerkraut. I'll repeat this process every couple days to make sure there's no foul odors that develop and to make sure that the sauerkraut is fermenting the way it should. In about another month, we should have finished sauerkraut.